And we also have implemented one example. There we have seen how to read elements into your array and how to write the elements of array on the console screen. Okay, so what is the nature of array? So basically when you talk about array, so array holds collection of similar data elements. You can hold n number of data elements. When you talk about array, so once you define any array, immediately it will go to memory, creates a common location. So inside that common location, based on your requirement, you can define n number of sublocations. You can define n number of sublocations. But when you talk about a nature of array, it holds collection of only similar data elements. You cannot store combination of multiple data types. That cannot be possible because it is a type safe collection, so which allows you to store only collection of similar data elements. Okay. Next, let's move towards the next concept, that is types of array. Types of array. So when you talk about an array can be implemented in different ways. An array can be implemented in different ways. Those are going to be 1D, D means dimension, one-dimensional array, two-dimensional array, and n-dimensional array. 1D, one-dimensional means it will have only one dimension, the basic array. So whatever we have discussed in the last class, that is called basic array. So that array will have only one dimension. And next one is 2D, two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array. So this array will have two different dimensions. This array will have two different dimensions. So those are going to be row and column. One dimension is called as row and another dimension is called as column. So in case of 1D, you will be able to arrange your data in only one dimension. If at all you need to arrange your data into different dimensions, then your approach should be towards 2D. Those two different dimensions are going to be row and column. One dimension is called as row and another dimension is called as column. So if at all you need to arrange your data in the form of rows and columns. In the form of rows and columns. What is a matrix? A matrix can be defined as collection of rows and columns. What is a table? A table can also be defined as collection of rows and columns. So basically, the collection of two dimensions can be defined as either matrix or table. Whenever you want to arrange your data in the rows and columns format in two different dimensions, then your approach should be towards 2D array. Next, ND array. N means n number of dimensions. There is no limitation. In the first case, you will see only one dimension. In the second case, your data can be arranged in two different dimensions, in rows and columns. But coming to third case, there is no limitation. You can have n number of dimensions. Inside each dimension, again you can define n number of dimensions. There is no limitation for number of dimensions. That is called ND. So we have already seen the first one, that is one-dimensional array. In case of one-dimensional array, first you need to define your array and specify the size of your array, like how many locations to be created inside your common location. So the simple basic array is called as one-dimensional array. So let's move towards the next concept, that is 2D, two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array. So when you talk about 2D, it will have two different dimensions. What are those two different dimensions? Those are going to be row and column. The first dimension is called as row and second dimension is called as column. So basically, whenever you want to arrange your data in the form of rows and columns, in the form of rows and columns, in the form of rows and columns means, what is a matrix? A matrix can be defined as collection of rows and columns. A matrix will have only rows and columns. What is a table? A table will also have collection of rows and columns. So basically, when you want to arrange your data in matrix format, when your data has to be stored in table format, then your approach should be towards 2D array. Whenever you want to store your data in the form of table or matrix, in mathematics we call it as matrix, but a matrix can also be called as a table. If at all your data has to be stored in the form of rows and columns, in the table format, in the matrix format, then your approach should be towards 2D array. So where you can define two different dimensions, those are going to be row and column. Let's see how to define a 2D array in C#. So it is very simple. It will be almost the syntax of 2D is almost very similar to your 1D array. Same story, access specifier, define scope of your variable, data type. When you talk about the nature of array, it can be 1D, 2D or ND. It can be any type of array. But coming to the nature of array, it always holds collection of only similar data elements. You cannot store, you cannot hold combination of multiple data elements, multiple data types. So here also same thing. When you talk about 2D, 2D also holds collection of similar data elements. It cannot hold multiple data elements of different data types. So define the scope of your array. Next, data type. What kind of data has to be stored? In the previous case, in case of 1D, we have defined the nature of the variable, but there we haven't used comma. But here, this collection, your square bracket will define the nature of the variable, which is nothing but collection. Because this variable is not going to be ordinary variable, this is going to be a collection. To define that nature, you will have to use square brackets. In the case of 1D, we haven't used comma, but here you have to use comma because your collection is going to be split into two different parts. Your collection is going to be split into two different dimensions. The first part will specify the nature of first dimension, and second part will specify the second dimension. So your entire collection is going to be split into two different dimensions. Your entire collection is going to be arranged in the form of two different dimensions, in the form of rows and columns. So that is the reason to define that nature, you'll have to use comma. What it will do, it will just split your collection into two parts, two different dimensions. Next, array name. So this is nothing but user defined one. You don't have to worry about it. You can give any name is equal to new. Again, when you talk about new, what is the use of new keyword? So this will take care of calculating the size of your collection and allocating that much of amount of memory in the slot. So this we have already discussed yesterday in case of 1D. Okay, so everywhere the nature of new is going to be same. So what it does, this is the only one which will take care of calculating the size of your collection based on number of elements and allocates that much amount of memory in the slot. So that is the reason every time whenever you declare any type of array, where it can be 1D, 2D or ND, whenever you define any kind of array, so always you'll have to use new keyword to allocate memory in the slot. So new data type of, here you need to define two different dimensions, the sizes of two different dimensions. What are those two different dimensions? The first dimension is going to be row and second dimension is going to be column. So that is the reason here you should specify the size of two different dimensions. What is the size of first dimension and what is the size of second dimension? Here first dimension is called as row and second dimension is called as column. Here you should tell the system how many rows to be created and inside that row how many columns to be created. Okay, So you should define two dimensions, row as well as column. So you should tell the system what is the size of row and what is the size of column. So size is nothing but how many rows to be created, and inside each row how many columns to be created. So basically, when your data has to be stored in a tabular format, you should tell the system how many rows to be there and how many columns to be there in your collection. So that is nothing but row size comma column size. Any questions, guys, so far? Any questions? Okay. So let's see a simple example. Okay. So according to the syntax, first you need to define access specifier, but still it is an optional thing. If you do not specify it, it will be considered as, by default, it will be considered as private. So I did not specify anything. Next, data type. This is must. I would like to hold collection of integer data elements. So that is the reason I'm going to define my data type as int. Define the nature of your collection, square brackets, and within the square brackets, you'll have to use comma. So what does it mean? So it means this is going to split your collection into two different dimensions, where you can have first dimension in the first part and second dimension in the second part. A first dimension is nothing but rows and second dimension is nothing but column. So first part will define number of rows of a collection and second part will define number of columns of a collection. Next, array name. I'm just giving it as my matrix. You can give any name according to your standards, your project standards. Is equal to new data type, that is int of, here we'll have to specify the size of each and every dimension. As I said, here you need to specify the size of two different dimensions, so row and column. So the first dimension is what? The first dimension is called as row and second dimension is called as column. Here you have to specify how many rows and how many columns to be created in your collection. Here I would like to have 2 rows and 3 columns. That's why I have specified my first dimension size as 2, comma, second dimension size as 3. So now what it will do? Immediately it will go to memory, creates a common location with the name my matrix, and inside this common location it will create, I'm sorry, just I need to modify it. It's not too. Three. Okay. I specified the dimension size, but you can give anything. 1, 3. It should not be 0. There should be at least one dimension. Okay. So if you specify it as 0, again it will become 1D. So there should be at least one dimension. So here I would like to have 3 rows and 3 columns. So immediately what it will do, it will go to memory, creates a common location with the name my matrix, and inside this common location it will create 3 rows. Here you can see 3 rows and 3 columns. 3 rows and 3 columns. Here I have 3 rows and 3 columns. 3 into 3, 9. 3 into 3, 9. So totally 9 different elements can be accommodated into your collection. In one of the scenario, I would like to store 12 different elements into my collection. Then what should be the size of my array? I would like to store 12 different elements. Then your array size should be 3 into 4. I mean, there should be 3 rows and 4 columns, or 4 rows or 3 columns. Let me open a notepad. This everyone need to understand. Let's say in one of the scenario, I'm going to get 12 elements from the user. As per my requirement, I need to arrange this data in the form of rows and columns. It means that needs to be stored in a 2D array, two-dimensional array. So there I'll have to decide, in order to accommodate 12 different elements, what should be the size of my array, how many rows and how many columns to be created. So that ultimately you'll have to decide it. So how many elements are to be stored? 12. So in order to accommodate 12 elements, then my array size should be, it should be either 2 into 6. It means 2 rows and 6 column, or 6 into 2. It means 6 rows and 2 columns, or it should be 3 into 4. It means 3 rows or 4 columns, or 4 into 3, or 12 into 1, right? So in order to accommodate 12 different elements into your 2D array, then the size of dimensions of your array should be like this. It should be either 2 into 6. Your array should have either 2 rows and 6 columns, or 6 rows and 2 columns, or 3 rows and 4 columns, 4 rows and 3 columns, or 12 rows and 1 column. So always number of rows into number of columns is nothing but total number of elements that are available in your collection. So this is one of the example. You can give any size. Yes, 1 into 12 is also possible. 1 row, 12 columns. So ultimately, how do you calculate number of elements of your 2D array? So which is nothing but number of rows into number of columns. Number of rows into number of columns. Let's say I have a matrix called 4 by 5. It means I have 4 rows and 5 columns. So totally how many elements can be accommodated into my array? It is going to be 20. 4 5s 20. Okay. Now let's go back to our, see, here I would like to store 9 elements. That is the reason I have specified my dimension size as 3, 3. Number of rows is equal to 3, number of columns is equal to 3. So 3 into 3, so totally 9 different elements can be accommodated into my collection. So immediately what it will do, it creates 3 rows and 3 columns. So totally 9 different elements can be accommodated into your array. That's fine. But how to accommodate those elements into my matrix? If we simply tell a system, hey, accommodate this element into first location. So coming to compiler, your system is a dummy. It doesn't know anything about your collection. It doesn't know where to place the element. It doesn't know from where the element need to be picked. So everything should be instructed by the developer. Everything should be clearly mentioned over. Then only will be able to accommodate your elements into respective locations, right? So you should tell the system. So, but in order to educate the system, first you need to be aware of the address of each and every location. Whenever the user enter first element, that should be stored into first location of your matrix. When you enter second element, it should be stored into second location, third location. In the same way, you need to fill all the locations in the sequence order, right? So that's why first you need to identify the address of each and every location. Okay, so let's see how to identify the address of a location. So it is very simple. Coming to matrix, a matrix or a table, a matrix can also be called as a table. Always a matrix will have collection of rows and columns. If you look into this, this is first row, this is second row, this is third row. And inside the row, we have 3 columns. First column, second column, third column. So when you talk about the nature of array, always the first location starts from 0. I mean, When you talk about 2D array, always the first row will start from 0. I mean, the first row will always be located at 0th position. In the same way, first column will also be located at 0th position. If there are 3 rows, the first row will be available at 0th position, second row will be there at first position, and third one will be there at n-1th position. It means 2. In the same way, columns will also be arranged in the same order. The first column will be at 0th position, and second column will be at first position, and third column will be at second position. Okay, so always row starts from 0 and column will also start from 0. Okay, so but this is not the complete address. You need to identify the complete address of your location. So let's do that. So let's identify the complete address of each and every location. See, whenever the user enter first element has to be stored into first location. Where is that first location is located? So this is called first location. So where it is located? So simple. When you talk about this cell, first cell, this first cell is located at first row and first column. What is the position of first row? 0. In first row, this is first column. So the first row is available at 0th position and first column is also available at 0th position. So the address of this cell is going to be 0, 0. 0, 0 means, so this particular cell is located at 0th row and 0th column. Next, go to second column of first row. Second column of first row. Now we are in the first row. First go to first column. First column is available at 0th position. Now we are at 0th row, 0th column. So the address of first cell is 0, 0. Next, go to second column of first row. So where it is located? It is located at 0th row and first column. So the address of this particular cell is going to be 0, 1. And where is third one is located? It is located at 0th row and second column. So 2 means third column. It is located at 0th row and second index of column. So the address of this one is going to be 0, 2. Yes, first row is completed. Next, go to second row. Always second row will be available at first position, that is 1. If you go to, in the second row, go to first column. Where it is located? It is located at first row and 0th column. So the address of this cell is going to be 1, 0. And go to second column of second row. It is located at first row and first column. So the address of this one is going to be 1, 1. And next one is going to be 1, 2. Next, go to third row. So third row is available at the second index. So in the third row, if you go to first column, so where it is located, this particular cell is located at second row and first column. So the address is going to be 2, 0. And go to second column of third row. It is located at second row and second column. 2, 1. 2, 2. But this is not the complete address. This particular cell is located at 0th row and 0th column. That's why the address is going to be 0, 0. This particular location is located at 0th row and first column. That's why it is going to be 0, 1. And this is located at 0th row and second column. The address is going to be 0, 2. But this is not the complete address. So the complete address is going to be look like this. The name of your matrix is my matrix. The name of your matrix is my matrix. The first column is located at 0, 0. That's why the complete address of this particular cell is going to be my matrix of 0, 0. And the address of this one is going to be my matrix of 0, 1, 0, 2. So it is not updated, I'm sorry. 0, 1. And this is going to be 0, 2. And the address of this one is going to be, so this is located at first row and 0th column. It is going to be 1, 0. And this is going to be 1, 1. and this is going to be 1 comma 2. And this is located at second row and 0th column. So this is going to be 2 comma 0, and this is going to be 2 comma 1, because this is located at second row and first column, and this is going to be 2 comma 2. Okay, so this is the complete address of your array. So now our array size is 3 comma 3. We have defined 3 rows and 3 columns. So 3 into 3, total 9 different elements can be accommodated into your collection. Now what has to be done? Now you will have to ask user to enter those many elements. First ask him to enter first element, read that element and store it into first location of your matrix, which is available at 0 comma 0. When you enter second element, place that into second location, which is available at 0 comma 1. First you need to fill first row. Once first row is completed, go to second row, start from first column. Fill first column of second row, second column, third column. Once first row is done, then go to third row, fourth row, fifth row. Okay. So whenever you enter second element, it should be stored into second column of first row. When you enter third element, it should be stored into third column of first row. Third column is finished. Go to second row. When you enter fourth element, fourth element should be stored into first column of second row. Fifth element should be stored into second column of second row. Sixth element should be stored into third column of second row. Yes, second row is completed. Go to third row. Now we are going to get seventh element. That element should be stored into first column of third row. When you enter the eighth element, that should be stored into second column of third row, and last element should be stored into third column of third row. Okay, so let's try to implement this simple example in C#. Any questions, guys, so far? I need answers from everyone. Just say yes or no. Good. Okay. Define your collection, data type, and as I said, your collection has to be split into 2 parts, 2 different dimensions. That's why I used comma. And your array name, let's say my matrix is equal to new int of, here you'll have to specify row size comma column size. So I'd like to read 9 different elements. So my array size should be 3 comma 3. You can give any size based on your requirement. Yes. Immediately it will go to memory, creates a common location with the name my matrix, and inside that common location, these many rows and these many columns will be created. Yes, my memory is ready. Now I can accommodate 9 different elements of integer type into my matrix. So what should be your next exercise? Our memory locations are ready. Now you need to fill them with the elements. So how do you get the elements? You'll have to ask user to enter those many elements one by one and read those elements one by one, place them into respective locations of your collection. Okay, so now you'll have to ask user to enter the first element. How do you ask it? Console dot write line, please enter an element, right? Once you enter that element, you need to store that into first location of your matrix. So where is that first location? The first location is available at 0 comma 0. The first element should be stored into first location. So first location means first you need to go to first row. Fill all the locations of first row. Once the first row is completed, generally you'll have to go to second row, then third row. So whenever the user enter first element, first you have to go to first row and start filling all the columns. So first element should be stored into first column of first row, which is nothing but my matrix of 0, 0. So where it has to be stored, it should be stored into my matrix of 0, 0. 0 first row, first column. So this is an integer, so it has to be converted. Console dot read line. Right? Done. Next, ask him to enter second element. Again, same story. Ask him to enter second element. Once you enter element, read that element. This should be stored into first row, second column. Second column is located at first position. Next, ask him to enter third element. That should be stored into third location. So in the first row, second position. Next, ask him to enter fourth element. Now first row is completed. Fourth element should be stored into second row. In each row, we can store only 3 elements. The first 3 elements are stored in the first row. Next 3 elements should be stored in the second row, and last 3 elements should be stored in the third row. So next 3 element means 3 elements are completed. So 4th, 5th, 6th. These 3 elements are to be stored in the second row, and 7th, 8th, 9th elements are to be stored in the third row. So we have stored first 3 elements in the first row. See 0, 0, 0. 0, 0, first column of first row, 0, 1, second column of first row, 0, 2, third column of first row. Next, second row, 1, 0, first column of second row. Next, 1, 1. See, if there are 100 different elements, if at all, my matrix size is 10 into 20, 10, 20. Then what would be the size of your collection? How many elements can be accommodated? It is going to be 10 into 20. 200 elements can be accommodated. To accommodate each and every element, you will have to write the same story. Ask user to enter the element, read it, store it into respective location. Right? If there are 100 elements, the same story has to be repeated 100 different times. Your same coding has to be written 100 different times. See, here we are writing the same story, that same logic again and again. If at all you are going to read 1000 elements, the same statement has to be written 1000 different times. If you look into this, here everything is going to be same. Only this location address is going to be changed. If there are 100 elements, obviously the same statement has to be repeated 100 times. But when it comes to real-time applications, you will be getting some thousands of elements, lakhs of elements. If you start writing the same logic for each and every element, the same logic has to be repeated 1000 times, 1 lakh times. Just think about your complexity. It will increase a lot of complexity. It will also occupy a lot of main memory, so which would lead to, that leads to a problem that will degrade performance of your application. So that is the reason. So what is the ideal methodology here? So don't write the same statement again and again. If at all any statement is getting repeated, if at all the same statement is getting repeated in different times, so don't write that same statement again and again, because it will duplicate your logic. It will also increase the complexity. So write this statement only once and repeat this execution in different times based on your requirements. Okay, so that's why I don't want to write the same coding again and again for each and every element. I would like to write it only once, and that execution has to be repeated in different times based on my requirements. So how to repeat this execution? Okay, how to repeat this execution? See, here our collection is having 2 different dimensions, rows and columns. Try to understand the logic. Many people will get confused over here. See, our collection contains 3 rows and 3 columns. So how to fill the elements? So it is very simple. In order to fill all the elements, so what has to be done? So where to start? For always you should start from first row. Try to understand the logic. In order to fill the first element, first you have to go to first row and start navigating between all locations of first row. Once it is done, then go to second row, then go to third row, then go to fourth row, then go to fifth row. So in order to automate your coding part, so first where we need to start here, first you should start from first row. First you need to go to first row, then go to second row, then go to third row, then go to fourth row, right? So where is that first row is located? At 0th position. And where is the second one is located? First position. Where the third one is located? Second position. So in order to repeat your execution, so as I said, whenever you want to repeat your execution, you should write a loop. Whenever you want to write a loop, you need to identify three things: where to start, where to end, and what is the variation between each iteration. Here we would like to repeat our execution. I would like to write this logic only once, and that has to be executed in different times. So whenever you want to repeat your execution, obviously you need to identify three parts: where to start, where to end, and what is the variation between each iteration. So here, if you look into this, where to start, first you should start from first row, then go to second row, then go to third row, fourth row, fifth row, sixth row, seventh row. So always you should start from row. In rows, where to start? Where is the first row is located? See, first row is located at 0th position. So first you have to go to 0th row, then first row, second row, third row, fourth row, fifth row. So the starting point is going to be 0. What is the variation? Next you have to go to first row, second row, third row. The variation is going to be 1. Where to end? That depends upon size of row. So here we have only 3 rows. So where to end? So it should be stopped at third row. Okay. So you are going to write a loop. Your loop should start from 0. Every time it has to be incremented with 1 to navigate between all the rows. And it has to be stopped at end limit of your collection. Okay. So that is what I'm going to write here. First I'm going to write a loop to navigate between the rows. For int row is equal to 0. Try to understand this concept, is very, very important. Why I'm starting from 0? My first row is available at 0th position. That's why I'm going to start from 0. Next, how many times it has to be repeated? Up to maximum size. How many rows are there? 3 rows are there. That's why it has to be repeated up to only 3 times. And what is the variation? First you have to go to 0th row, then first row, second row, third row. The variation is 1 between all the rows. So that's why every time it has to be incremented with 1. Yes, done. Once the compiler comes to your for loop, your row is going to start from 0. Is 0 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will go inside of this. It means we are at, your row is equal to 0. It means we are at first row. Now what has to be done? We are at first row. So what has to be done in the first row? Ask user to enter first element, store it into first location of that particular row. Then ask him to enter second element, store it into second location of first row. Ask him to enter third element, store it into third location of first row. Right? Your row is equal to 0. It means we are at first row. Now what you have to do? You will have to fill all locations of first row. In the first row, you need to fill 3 different locations: 0th location, first location, and second location. So the first 3 elements can be accommodated into first row. Now we are at first row. What has to be done? Now ask user to enter first element, store it into first location. Ask him to enter second element, store it into second location. Ask him to enter third element, store it into third location. So again, in order to read and write, I don't want to repeat that same coding again and again. I want to write it only once. Yet to navigate between the rows, we have written a loop that is going to start from 0. It will be repeated up to 3 times. Every time it will be incremented with 1. So once the compiler comes to your loop, the row is going to start from 0. Your row is equal to 0 means we are at first row. So within the first row, there might be a number of locations. Here we have defined only 3 locations, but there can be n different locations. In order to accommodate all elements of first row, first you have to go to first column, then go to second column, third column, fourth column, fifth column, sixth column. First you have to go to first column. So where is that located? It is located at 0th position. First go to 0th column, then go to first column, second column, third column, fourth column. So again, within the row, to navigate between the columns, to accommodate all elements into respective columns, again you need to navigate between all the columns. To navigate between the columns, you need to write one more loop that should start from 0. Every time it has to be incremented with 1, and it has to be ended at end limit. Okay, so within the rows, to navigate between the columns, I'm going to write one more loop. Int column is equal to 0, because first we have to go to first column. And how many times it has to be repeated? That is nothing but that depends upon your column size. How many columns are there inside each row? Only 3 columns. That's why it has to be repeated up to only 3 times. And every time it has to be incremented with 1. Okay. See, once the control comes to your for loop, your row is going to be 0. Is 0 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will go inside of this. Your row is equal to 0. It means we are at first row. Within the first row, to navigate between the columns, we have written this second loop. Once it comes inside of the first row, now this loop is going to start from 0. Your column is equal to 0, because our first column, within the first row, first you have to go to first column, which is located at 0th position. That's why we are starting this loop from 0. Column is equal to 0. Is 0 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will come inside of this. It means now we are at 0th row and 0th column. 0th row and 0th column, which is nothing but first location of your array. First location of your array. Yes, we are at first location. Now what has to be done? Now ask user to enter the first element and locate it into first location of your array. I am going to ask user to enter the element. Console dot write line. Please enter an element. Once you enter this element, read that element and store it into respective location. What is that? What is the address of this location? My matrix name is my matrix of row comma column is equal to convert dot 2 into 32 of console dot read line. See, try to understand this logic. It is very, very important, because in the real time you may need to write for inside for inside for inside for. So you need to be aware of the execution process of nested for. See, first it will go to, let's say here I have written for inside another for, right? So this is called nested for. The outer for is called as parent. This is called as child, or you can call it as inner for or outer for. So first it will go to outer for loop, because inner for loop is part of outer for loop, is a kind of subset. It is going to start from 0. Your row is equal to 0. Is 0 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will go inside of for loop. It means your row is equal to 0. It means we are at first row. Here we have written one more loop to navigate between the columns. So this is going to start from 0. Your column is equal to 0. Is 0 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will go inside of second for loop. Now what is the value of row? 0. What is the value of column? 0. So row comma column 0 comma 0. 0 comma 0 means we are at first location. Now we are going to ask user to enter first element. It will ask user to enter first element. Once you enter that element, your console.readline reads that element from the console window, and that is going to be stored at My matrix of row comma column. What is the value of row? 0. What is the value of column? 0. 0 comma 0. My matrix of 0 comma 0. My matrix of 0 comma 0, which is nothing but first location of your matrix. Yes, this element will be stored into first location. Immediately it will not go to external loop. It will not go to external loop. Now column is going to be incremented with 1. Earlier it was 0. Now it is going to be 0 plus 1 means 1. Again let's check this condition. What is the value of column? 1. Is 1 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will go inside of this loop. It will ask user to enter one more element that is going to be stored at, still we are at 0th row. What is the value of column? Only column inner loop value has been incremented. What is the value of column? Is 1. 0 comma 1. My matrix of 0 comma 1 is nothing but second location of first row. Next, column will be incremented. What is the value of column? It is 2. Again check this condition. Is 2 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will ask user to enter third element that is going to be stored at 0 comma, still row is 0 only, row is not incremented, only column is getting incremented. 0 comma 2. 0 comma 2 is nothing but third location. Now column value will be incremented. It is going to be 3. It checks the condition. Is 3 is less than 3? No. Condition is false. Now it will come outside of inner loop. Outside of inner loop. Once it comes outside of inner loop, now the row value is going to be incremented. Earlier it was 0, now it is going to be 1. Now row is going to be 1. Is 1 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will come inside of your loop. A row is equal to 1. It means we are at second row. Within second row, again, it will start from 0. See, column is equal to 0. Because within second row, again you need to navigate between all the 3 columns. So that's why every time it starts from 0. So now we are at second row. Again it will start from 0. Is column is equal to 0? Is 0 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will ask user to enter the element that is going to be stored at. What is the value of row now? 1. What is the value of column? 0. 1 comma 0. My matrix of 1 comma 0 is nothing but first location of second row. Next, row value will be same. Row will not be incremented. Okay. Now column is going to be incremented. Column is going to be 1. Is 1 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will come inside of the loop. It will ask user to enter one more element. It is going to be stored at, what is the value of row? 1. And what is the column of value? Column value 1. So matrix of 1 comma 1. Next, column is going to be incremented. Column is going to be 2. Is 2 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will go inside of the loop. It will ask user to enter one more element that is going to be stored at 1 comma 2. Now column is going to be incremented with 1. Column is going to be 3. Is 3 is less than 3? No. Condition is false. It will come outside of inner loop. Once it comes outside of inner loop, now it will go to outer loop. Now row is going to be incremented. Earlier it was 1. Now row is going to be 2. Row 2 means we are at third row. Is 2 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It will come inside of your loop. So again within the third row, again you need to navigate between 3 different columns. That's why again column will start from 0. It will be repeated 3 times. Every time it reads one different element and keeps them into respective location. So once it is done, it will come outside of inner loop. Now row is going to be incremented. Earlier it was 2. Now it is going to be 3. Is 3 is less than 3? No. Condition is false. It will come outside of your loop. Any questions guys so far? Any questions? Okay, so let's keep a debugger and start debugging it. Run your application. Okay. See, so let's keep a breakpoint. Let's pin it. Now we have just created empty locations. When you say int my matrix is conjoint of 3 comma 3, what it will do, it creates a common location with the name my matrix, and inside that common location and these many sub locations will be created. So if you go to my matrix, see, here you can see 9 different locations. The first one is available at 0 comma 0, 0 comma 1, 0 comma 2, 1 comma 0, 1 comma 1, 1 comma 2, 2 comma 0, 2 comma 1, 2 comma 2. These are the addresses of all your locations. But as of now, the collection is empty. We haven't placed any element into your collection. So now we are going to read and place those elements into your collection. Okay, just pin your row as well as column value as well as column. Okay, so first row, your row is equal to 0. It checks the condition. Yes, condition is true. It will go inside of this. Now you can pin your column. Column is going to start from 0. See, 0 is less than 3. Now we are at, what is the value of row? 0. What is the value of column? 0. 0 comma 0 means we are at first row, first column. It will ask user to enter the element. Enter an element. Let's say 10. See, if you go to your matrix, now you can see the first element has been placed into first location, which is available at 0 comma 0. Now immediately it will not go to external loop. It will go to internal loop only. So once that internal loop condition becomes false, then only it will go to external loop. Okay, but here it will be repeated till the condition is true. So earlier the column value is 0. Now what will happen? Column plus plus, it will be incremented with 1. Now column is going to be 1. See, now column has become 1. What is the value of 0 row? 0. Column is 1. So it means we are at 0 row and first column. That is nothing but second location of first row. It will ask you to enter second element, 20. See, the second element has been placed into 0 comma 1, which is nothing but 0 means first row, second column. We have read two elements. First one has been placed into first row, first column, and second element has been placed into first row, second column. Now column is going to be 2. See, now we are at 0 comma 2. It means first row, third column. Read third element, 30. Next, now I is going to be incremented. It is going to be 3. See, the column value is 3. It checks the condition. Is 3 is less than 3? No, condition is false. Now it will come outside of the for loop, right? So row, till now row is 0. Now we came outside of the internal for loop. So now it will go to external for loop. Now your row value is going to be incremented. See, now row has become 1. It checks the condition. Is 1 is less than 3? Yes, condition is true. It came inside. So now we are at row 1. Row 1 means second row. Within the second row, again you need to navigate between all the location. Thus again column will be reset back to 0, because again within the second row you need to start from first column. First column is available at 0th position. So again column will be reset back to 0. See, column is 0. So now we are at 1 comma 0. Second row, first column. It will ask to enter fourth element, 40. Next, column value is going to be incremented. See, column is 1. Now we are at 1 comma 1. It means second row, second element, second column, 50. Here you can see your matrix. 40 has been stored into 1, 0 and 50 can be stored into 1, 1. Now we are going to store, now column is 2. Where at 1, 2? 1, 2 means second row, third column. It will ask you to enter sixth element. Now column is going to be 2, 3. So condition will become false. Is 3 is less than 3? No. Now it will come outside of inner loop. It will go to external loop. Now your row will be incremented. Row is going to be 2. 2 means third row. Where at third row? Again within the third row you need to navigate between 3 locations. Again column will be reset back to 0. See. 2, 0. 2, 0 means third row, first column. 70. 2, 1. Third row, second column. So 2, 2. It means third row, third column. So now column is going to be 3. It will come outside of the loop. And row is also going to be 3. 3 means we're at fourth row. Is there any fourth row? No, we have only 3 rows. Thus the condition is going to be false. It came outside of the loop. Now you can see all elements filled in your array. See. Okay, so this is something about a reading process of your array. Any questions, guys? Any questions? So Aravind, you're asking something about string.
Yeah, in case of writing, accepting the names for that, I got a question.
In that case, you need to define your array as string.
Yeah, I did that, but I got some errors, so I'll just mail you the code, whichever I did.
Just send it to me.
Yeah, no problem. I'll do that.
Okay, in that case, you need to define your array as string.
Yeah, I did that, but it says unsigned variable or something. I got those error.
Okay, sure, definitely. If you want, we can try it here also. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so okay, but you understood the complete process, right? What is a matrix? How to store elements into matrix? Okay.
Yes, I understood that. Yeah, I got it.
And Nikhil was asking one question. What is the best fit, right? So where is the best fit we can use arrays? So as I said, in the real-time environment, obviously when you talk about data, especially relational databases like SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, data will be stored in the form of 2D array, right? 2D in the sense rows and columns format. Always in the backend, data will be stored in the form of tables. A table will have collection of rows and columns. A table will have collection of rows and columns, right? So which is nothing but our 2D array. Let's say I have fetched some amount of data from the database. I need to do some process on some amount of data. Let's say we have extracted some 1 lakh records. Out of 1 lakh records, we need to apply our process on only selected records. In that case, you need to filter your data based on set of condition, and that filtered data should be held somewhere within a programming environment, right? So in that case, the same structure object is required over. So in that case, you can use 2D array to hold your data temporarily. So basically, a collection can be used to hold your data temporarily. It's a kind of in-memory database. Collection is a kind of in-memory database where we can hold collection of rows and columns within your main memory, within your programming environment. Okay, so the processing will become very simpler, right? So in order to navigate between the rows or columns and to identify particular value, to search for particular data member, so if you could store them in an array, so your process will become much more simpler. So that is the reason C# has provided different types of collections. Based on your requirement, you'll have to choose the respective collection. So coming to array list, there are other collections also available like your array list, hash table. Okay, so the nature of each collection is going to be different. They have their own purpose. Okay, so later we'll see the difference between different collections and why we need them. So basically, ultimately the purpose of each collection is to hold data temporarily within your programming environment. If at all you need to process some data out of what you have fetched from the database, that filtered data should be held using any one of these collections. If you want to apply some process on any filtered data, so better get them dumped into any one of the intermediate collection, and from there you can apply your logic and process your data. Once it is processed, again store that back into your database. Just to hold your data within your programming environment, you will have to use collection, because collection is a built-in mechanism. It is a built-in class which comes with set of functionalities that will provide you a lot of flexibility in case of your processing. Okay. Later we'll see more about it. So now you know how to place elements into your 2D array. Okay, our array is ready. Now what has to be done? Let's say we are going to get some data in the form of some 2D array from third-party source. We are not placing any data into that collection. We are going to get some collection from third-party people, third-party source, which contains a number of rows and a number of columns, right? Now what you have to do, you have to read data from that collection. You have to read data from that collection and do some process according to your requirement, according to your business logic, right? So, but ultimately, in order to get the elements of that collection, first you need to read data from that collection. So how do you read it? So it is very simple. Let's say you have filled our collection with some 9 elements, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. In order to get the elements of your collection, so what has to be done? Again, you have to go to first row, read first element. Where is that first element is available? This is available at 0, 0. Next, go to second element, get the second value, which is available at 0, 1. Go to third location. Again, you have to follow the same process, right? First, you have to go to first row, navigate between all the locations. Then go to second row, navigate between all the locations. Then go to third row, you need to navigate between all the locations to pull values of all the locations, right? So in order to perform read or write operation, always you should start from first row, then go to second row, then go to third row. To automate your manual process, to avoid the complexity, so what has to be done? You'll have to write your operation only once, and that has to be executed repeatedly and different times based on your requirement. If something has to be executed repeatedly, then you need to write a loop. Whenever you want to write a loop, you need to identify 3 things. What are those 3 things? Where to start, where to end, and what is the variation between each iteration. So in case of 2D matrix, always you should start from first row, which is located at 0th position. So always your loop should start from 0. To navigate between all the rows, every time it has to be incremented with 1, and it has to be stopped at last row in the limit of your collection. And once it comes inside of the row, again you need to write a loop to navigate between the columns. Always your first column will be available at 0th position. So that loop should also start from 0. Every time it has to be incremented with 1 to push it forward to the next location. And it has to be ended at last location of the row. Okay. So let's see, even the writing process is also going to be very similar to your reading process. Let's try to pull values from our collection. Same, in order to pull the first element, you have to go to first row. So always you should start from first row. So again, same logic, int row is equal to 0. Because first I have to go to first row. How many rows are there? There are only 3 rows. To go to next row, every time it has to be incremented with 1. And once it comes inside of the row, to navigate between all the columns, to pull values of all your columns, again you need to write a rule. First you have to go to first column of the row, which is available at 0th position. That's why this should also start from 0. How many columns are there? Only 3 columns. That's why it has to be repeated up to 3 times. And every time it has to be incremented with 1 to push it forward to next location. Here you will find actually your data. Console.writeLine my matrix of row comma column. Here we are printing the element of this location. When it comes to the first iteration, row is equal to 0, column is equal to 0, my matrix of 0 comma 0. It means first element, it pulls the value from the first location and that will be printed on the screen. In the same way, it will go to each and every location, picks the respective element and prints it in the screen. I'm just going to put a simple statement, console.writeLine my matrix elements are. Okay, just run your application. Somewhere semicolon is missing. Where is that? Please enter an element. First element 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. See, my matrix elements are. Yes, the data has got displayed, but the thing is, it is not getting displayed in a proper format, right? Even if you have stored our data in 2-dimensional format, in the table format, but while displaying it, we are not following that format. Data is not displayed in the table format, in the matrix format, right? So you need to change this output format. So how to get them displayed in the expected format, the table format? So it is very simple. Here you are using a WriteLine statement. So what it will do, every time it will try to print each element in a separate line. That is the reason you are not able to see data in proper structure. So instead of write, use WriteLine, write. And there should be a space from one element to another element, right? The first row, all elements of first row should be displayed in one line. Once it comes outside of this loop, it will go to next row, right? All next row elements should be displayed in the next line. So here write console.writeLine, so that it will divert control to next line. See, now you can see the exact array format, like table formats. Here we have 3 rows and 3 columns. Any questions, guys? Okay, and as I said, if you want to store string values, you need to define it as string. Let's say EMP data. I believe this would answer your question also. I'd like to store some data. EMP data is equal to new string of I'd like to have employee ID, employee name, and salary. 4 rows and 3 columns. 4 rows and 3 columns. Employee ID, it should have employee ID, employee name, and salary. Employee ID, employee name, and salary. First row should have headers. That is the reason I'm just hard coding this, because you should tell the system of 0, 0, 0. That will be our next concept. Employee data of 0, 0 is equal to, this is just header, EMP name, because first row should have column names. 0, 1, sorry, employee ID, this is EMP ID, EMP name, and 0, 2, this is going to be salary, right? So first row is having all the row headers, so that's why if you want to fill data for these locations, it should start from second row. So row is going to start from 1. How many rows are there? 4 rows out of 4. So 1 row has already filled with column headers. You have only remaining 3 rows. Your data has to be filled into only 3 rows. That's why it is going to start from 1. The data should, you should start filling data from second row. That's why it is going to start from 1. That's repeated up to 3 times. And same column. 3 columns are there, 0, 0, 0. Here no conversion is required because the type of your matrix is string. You need to change this. Please enter if column is equal to 0. Please enter employee ID, because the message should also be changed. If column is equal to 1, please enter employee name. This is a simple example I'm just showing you. Okay. If column is equal to 2, please enter employee salary. And the collection name is EMP data. In the same way, if row is equal to 0, your column names, header name should also be displayed. That's why it has to be repeated up to 4 times. And this is going to be employee. Okay, let's run this. Please enter employee ID. Let's say 100. Employee name, some AA. Salary, 12,000. Next, second row. Please enter employee ID. Some 200. Employee name, BBB. Salary, 15,000. See, employee ID, employee name, salary. First row, first record, first employee details, 100, AA, 12,000. Right? So there is no problem with string. Just once cross check your program with this program. Okay. Okay. Now see here. As I said, once you hard code your row size and column size within the programming environment, so what will happen? The size is going to be fixed. It always allows you to place only 4 rows and 3 columns, right? in one of the scenario, I don't know like how many elements are going to come from the user. Sometimes he supplies 12 elements, sometimes he supplies 13, 15, 100, 1000. In that case, it will be very difficult to decide your row size and column size. If I define it as 4, 3, always it accepts only 4 into 3, 12 elements. If the user enter 25 elements, it cannot be accommodated because we have defined the size within the programming environment. So once it is defined within the programming environment, it is going to be constant, which cannot be changed dynamically at runtime. So sometimes that leads to a problem, right? If you are really not sure about like the size of data which is going to come from the user, in that case, so it will be very difficult to accommodate your data into your matrix. So in that case, what has to be done? So to overcome this problem, so what has to be done? Even the sizes of your array should also be defined dynamically at runtime. Even size of your array should also be defined dynamically at runtime. Okay, so how to define this? So it will be very similar to your 1D. Don't define this part within the programming environment. Don't define this part within the programming environment and give this option to the user. I mean, ask user to enter his requirement. Ask him how many rows you want to store, how many columns you want to store. And based on his requirement, you'll have to accommodate that much amount of data into respective locations. So I'm just going to change this. I'm going to change it to int. Now you have to get row size and column size dynamically from the user. To accommodate row size and column size, I'm going to define two more variables. Those are going to be row size and next one is going to be column size. Okay, so here we just created an empty collection, but we haven't specified how many rows and how many columns to be created, because that size, that input is going to come from the user. You'll have to ask user to enter his requirement, like how many rows and how many columns to be created, and based on that you'll have to allocate only those many locations inside your common memory. Okay, so now I am going to ask user to enter these details. Console dot write line, please enter row size and column size. So row size, read those values, is equal to convert to dot 2 into 32 of console dot read line, and next read column size is equal to convert to dot 2 into 32 of console dot read line. Yes, user has provided his requirement. He has provided how many rows and how many columns to be created. Now what has to be done? So these many rows and these many columns to be created inside your EMP data. How to do that? Your collection name, that is EMP data, is equal to new data type. What is the data type? Of int. Of here you have to specify how many rows and columns to be created. So number of rows are there in row size variable and number of columns are there in column size variable. See, if the user says 2 rows and 3 columns, it is going to be 2, 3. If he says 20, 30, it is going to be 20, 30. 20 rows and 30 columns will be created. So now we are able to allocate these locations dynamically at runtime. And you'll also have to change your loops accordingly. Earlier it was only 3, but now it has to be taken dynamically. This is going to be less than row size and this is going to be less than column size. Right? I'm going to just remove this. And this is an integer, so it has to be converted. Convert to dot 2 into 32. So it also same thing. Rows should be repeated up to row size. and this is going to be column size. Okay, because the maximum number of columns are going to come from this variable and maximum number of rows are going to be come from this variables. So you need to navigate through all the rows up to this maximum limit, and coming to columns, the maximum limit is going to be column size. Let's keep on debugger. Run your application. See, if you look into your collection, it is null because till now we haven't specified how many locations to be created inside the common memory. That is why it didn't created any location. Now we are going to get the size from the user, and based on that size you'll have to allocate those many locations inside your common memory. Now it will ask user to enter row size, and please enter row size and column size. I would like to store 4 rows and 5 columns. Now see, it is empty. Now user has provided he wants 4 rows and 5 columns. Now what has to be done? Those many rows and those many columns are to be created inside your common location. So that is what we are going to do now. Empty data is equal to new. Once you use new keyword, it will allocate the memory. Now we are going to create it. Yes. Now check your empty data. Now it is not empty, right? Here you can see 4, 5, 20 locations. See, there are 20 different locations. Right? It will ask you to enter 20 elements. So start from 0. Here ask user to enter element. Console.write line. Please enter an element. Now run your application. Enter row and column size. I'd like to have 4 rows and 5 columns. It will ask you to enter 4 into 5, 20 elements. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. See, you can see 4 rows and 5 columns. All your 20 elements are arranged in 4 rows and 5 columns. Okay, so that depends upon your requirement. If you are really sure about the size that you are going to get from the client, better get it defined within the programming environment so that every time it will be accurate. If you're really not sure about like what volume of data is going to come from the user, in that case, better don't define it within the programming environment and get that defined dynamically at runtime based on your requirement. Okay, so the first implementation is called as static implementation, and the second implementation is called as dynamic implementation. In case of static implementation, the size should be defined within the programming environment at the time of your variable declaration. But if at all you need to get that dynamically at runtime, then your approach should be towards dynamic implementation. In case of dynamic implementation, you should not define any size at the time of declaration. This has to be defined based on your requirement dynamically at runtime. Any questions, guys? Good, very good. Okay, so if no, I'll give one more example for your practice. Okay, write down. Write a program to find sum of elements of matrix. Write a program to find sum of elements of matrix. in the following way. So not, you need to sum in the sense you need to calculate row wise sum, column wise sum, as well as total sum. I mean, find sum of elements of each row. Next, find sum of elements of each column. Next, find sum of all elements of matrix. This is what you need to do. I would like to see a row level sum as well as column level sum of elements of each row, sum of elements of each column, as well as sum of elements of your whole matrix. Okay. Next, second example. Find lowest element or a minimum value, lowest element in a matrix. What is the lowest number of your matrix? What is the smallest number of your matrix? Yeah, in the same matrix, you need to find row level sum. Like, in the first row, what is the sum of elements of first row? What is the sum of element of second row? What is the sum of element third row? Row level sum. Next, column level sum. Okay. And next, you need to find out the minimum value, like the lowest element of your collection. The lowest element of your collection. Next, the same way, find highest element. Highest element of a collection. In a collection. Here again, coming to lowest element, lowest element. Okay, after this, I'll give it a separate example. Fourth one. Lowest and highest elements of each row. This is at row level. In each row, what is the lowest element and what is the highest element? In the same way, calculate, find out the lowest and highest element in each column. Right? So this is what you need to practice. You need to find out, calculate sum of elements of each row. The sum operation should be performed at row level as well as column level as well as at matrix level. Next, find lowest and highest element of each row. In each row, you'll have to find out lowest and highest element.